on Social Security. I want to commend President Biden for taking the leadership in this area, who campaigned across the country assuring Americans that Social Security was a sacred trust.
Single filers who meet this qualification will receive a $250 payment from the state. Married couples who filed their 2021 New Mexico state taxes jointly will receive a July rebate if they earn less than $150,000 in adjusted gross income in 2021. For those who meet this threshold, the rebate will be $500. The rebate should begin being processed this month. It will likely take the full month for all the rebates to get out to all eligible taxpayers. The state will pay July rebates automatically if you have direct deposit banking information on file with the state. The state expects to send about 710,000 rebates, with the split between single filers and joint filers around 50-50. Government officials said some checks might be less than $250 or $500 if taxpayers incorrectly calculated their income payments and are still owed money, or if they filed late and have been assessed interest. In addition, you might not receive a rebate if you were declared as a dependent on someone else's return. New Mexico reinserts have gotten a lot of tax relief so far in 2022. New Mexico became the last state to exempt Social Security income from taxes when Governor Michelle Lujan signed a sweeping tax legislation, which helped many people. Shocking news. President Biden has released and announced a new executive order. He will be taking action on it very soon. The lawmakers are trying to include new provisions into a new spending bill, and this means a fourth round of stimulus may be sent out sooner than later. The House Majority Caucus has already proposed a $1,300 payment to people in Alaska to provide relief for high fuel costs, inflation, and a crisis. The House Majority said the bill includes an energy relief check. The money will be in addition to Alaska's annual permanent fund dividends. Democratic Representative Neil Foster said the current $110 price per barrel of oil was a major reason for the proposal. He told reporters prices of fuel at the pump for gasoline and heating fuel are going up, and as Alaskans face these high prices, the state of Alaska is going to see more revenue come into the coffers. And so we believe that we should be helping provide Alaskans with relief. A $1,300 payment would cost the state around $840 million, and the payment would be significantly larger than what the governor, Mike Dunleavy, initially pitched. In December, he proposed paying Alaskans $1,200, the difference between last year's $1,100 and the amount he had wanted. Now, here's some big news from the president. Joe Biden warned that climate change and clean energy remain more urgent than ever, and said if the Senate will not tackle the issue, he will take strong executive action to meet this moment and will not back down. But friends, Democrats still hoping to pass a sweeping package ahead of the election. Manchin responded to the report in a radio interview, saying that he would not decide after seeing the latest inflation numbers. And Manchin's spokesperson said in a statement, political headlines are of no value to the millions of Americans struggling to afford groceries and gas as inflation soars to 9%. Manchin believes it's time for leaders to put the political agendas aside, reevaluate and adjust to economic realities the country faces. This will be done to avoid taking steps to add additional fuel to the inflation fire. Joe Biden said action on climate change and clean energy remains more urgent than ever, adding that if the Senate will not move forward and tackle the climate crisis and strengthen the clean energy industry, he will take executive action himself.
Inaugural Climate Fund. Diana Olick spoke with the fund manager. She's here with the details. Diana?
Well, Kelly, Fifth Walls is now the largest private fund formed specifically to decarbonize the real estate industry, according to the firm, a space that is wildly underfunded.
The real estate industry over the last 10 years has only invested $100 million into the tech to decarbonize it. And that's kind of surprising because the numbers that are required to decarbonize the industry are staggering. So it's estimated that in the US alone, to decarbonize the existing commercial building stock, so forget homes, forget most infrastructure, just commercial buildings, it will cost $18 trillion.
The fund aims to invest in smart buildings, renewable energy, hardware, software, energy storage, and carbon sequestration technologies. Its backers include big public names in commercial real estate, from rental REITs like Camden Property Trust, Equity Residential, Invitation Homes, and American Homes for Rent, to hospitality like Hilton, Host Hotels and Resorts, and MGM.
They're investing because they want to get access to these technologies. They see the advantages from the real estate side of things as to why they want to be ahead of the curve. But financial investors...
Good. Even at the low end of guidance, $5.80, you're talking about a stock that prior to this move is trading at 10 times that number, which is too cheap in this space. The hospitals are interesting to me. Everybody loved Tenet Healthcare 4 or 5 months ago. Obviously, the market sold off. But I think the stock is really interesting here, despite this move higher in the aftermarket.
Well, now we're going to move on to a key decision overseas. Europe's central bank hiking interest rates for the first time in 11 years. The ECB lifting rates by 0.5 point. The market was looking for 0.25 point, so a more aggressive move. And that aggressive move coming about a week before the Federal Reserve makes its decision on rates. Our next guest warns Wall Street is underestimating U.S. policymakers. Mike Schumacher is head of macro strategy at Wells Fargo Securities. So, Mike, why, when the ECB makes this move after 11 years, does this portend something more aggressive for our Federal Reserve when we've been making moves? They've been taking aggressive stances.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It shows the inflation fight is global. ECB has not moved in a decade. Today it did, finally, maybe too late, but nonetheless, it did something. And that really shows central bankers are in a very aggressive inflation fighting stance. We think the Fed's going to reiterate that. Yes, it probably goes 75 basis points next week. That's not the big news, though. The news will be when Chairman Powell, in his press conference, at least in my opinion, says, hey, look, this fight's going to go on a while. It's probably going to extend at least through this year, maybe into next year. So buckle up, the market's price.
Oil, I am pretty bullish on oil. I just don't see much supply coming, and the demand for oil derivatives has been strong. And so our oil to gas spreads are at about $70 per barrel of oil equivalent. And I think oil is going to remain strong. Obviously, people are concerned about natural gas and about Europe's energy position. But our footprint in Canada, the United States, Latin America, the Middle East really helps us a lot. And we have feedstock flexibility in our assets in Europe as well. So relative to European competition, relatively advantaged there. And we'll obviously have to manage.
Too little out of the Fed.
So you think it's less about the rate move itself, which you're calling for 75 basis points, and more about what Chairman Powell says about what's to come. And you believe that message is changing? Why? Just because of the ECB?
Not necessarily because of the ECB. The ECB is really just the latest piece to fall into line. So Bank of Canada went 100 basis points last week. US CPI was terrible. So you've had a number of data points come out recently that would, I think, confirm the Fed's view that, hey, inflation's not going to go down easily. Again, it's global. We have to fight back. So the chair's got a challenge, though, because the Fed has lost a bit of credibility with respect to guidance. And I think that's going to induce him to pound the table even harder than he would have done otherwise.
Michael, it's Tim. When we think about the ECB and the conundrum that they're in when faced with record inflation, gas dynamics, political discord across the European Union, and sovereign debt, not necessarily crisis time, but what's your call on the euro as we impute this back into multinationals? Because this is, we'll take care of that side. I'm just kind of curious how you feel the currency continues to move. Dollar's given something back over the last couple of days, but hard to see the fundamentals realigning in favor of being long the euro.
That's right. We're still dollar bulls. Yeah, sure. The